Hello, everyone. How are you doing? Hi, guys. We are going to have such an interesting talk today because I have selected one account for us to read together. And I'm going to examine step by step with you. That's going to be a great illustration. So I thank all of you who are already here. I know others will be joining later, which is a bit of a pity because when we read an account, it's very nice when we can hear from the beginning. But there are some aspects that I thought were very important for us to clarify. And this account, you see, it's quite interesting because someone started practicing VELO and opened up so many different angles of perception. So I think it's important that we comment because sometimes we have the wrong expectations in regards to a technique such as VELO. And hi, Editiel, Mohe, Angela, Olivier. Nice to see you guys. Hector. Thanks, everyone. Hi, German. It's been some time I don't see you here. Very nice to have you. I have prepared one slide for us to read together the account. So shall we dive into it and then we talk later about any aspect that you would like regarding the out-of-body experience? Yes? Let me do, I say regarding the out-of-body experience because the account I'm going to read is on the out-of-body experience and VELO. But let's go. Okay, so I'll be here. You are going to be seeing me small here. I'm sharing with you my screen and what you see here, my website. I just want to show you that here in stories, I have a number of different accounts. I just realized that some just ended up in the wrong folder by a problem of the program. The format program, not format, sorry, the form to fill out. There are people that send me the account. So, but I am now on top of this and I'm going to have all of the accounts here published. Can you guys see my screen here where I opened the account? Shall we read this together? I'm going to be sharing it with you. I'm trying to expand a little bit my screen. Yes, everyone seeing and hearing well, right? Hi, Jamark. Mr. Mirror, nice seeing you guys. And Mohammed, wonderful. So let's read this together. I'm not going to read the summary because the summary, I composed it to make it easier for people to know what is in there. So let me start here with the experience. So the person told us, and I know that this was submitted by Rui, but Rui said, I remember doing VELO at some moments during that day and doing it before I fell asleep. Since I have only recently started practicing VELO, I don't have a full grasp of the technique and can't always pinpoint how much of the exercise was proficiently and correctly done. So we know it's somebody who just started, right, practicing. I don't remember if I completed the technique or just gave in to sleep. So we know that. So at this point, it's someone with experience, but not a lot of experience. He did VELO and he just fell asleep doing VELO, which sometimes happens, right, to us. And then there's something super interesting that Rui tells us here. He says, I lay on my stomach and quickly fell asleep when the experiment began, around 11:45 p.m. At this point, I cannot tell if I woke up or if I was in a lucid dream. The fact is that I heard the sound of many voices and many hurried footsteps coming from the yard, his backyard. There was irritability in the voices. The footsteps came in a surprising crescendo, and whatever it was, it rushed against the house. The walls seemed to shake. So basically, what he's telling us is that he heard and saw a bunch of spirits that were in the backyard. But at this point, Rui did not know what to expect because he was doing just VELO and assuming that he was going to have some type of reaction and results. And he ended up having this experience, which gets more and more strange. So he saw these people, they just hit the wall. And now what happens here? I go back here so you can read with me. Hopefully you are being able to read, right? Together with me. So then it was as if something large like a person, followed by lighter and simpler looking colorless ones, crawled quickly under the floorboards towards the street gate and disappeared. Can you imagine an experience like that? So you fall asleep and then you see a bunch of people with this strange look hitting the wall, going through the through the floor, almost like going underneath, passing under the floor, and going out through the door. There is something here that I want to mention to you before we continue reading, is that what he had here, Rui, was an out-of-body experience. He interprets that as, I saw spirits, but it's more than he saw spirits. He had lucidity awareness during a moment in which he was conscious of what was going on in the non-physical astral dimension. And then we come and think, was that caused by VELO? I'd say so, yes. But let's understand here exactly what is my point. VELO did not cause those consciousness to be there. VELO did not interfere in any aspect with the fact that his house is a public space, non-physically speaking, right? Because spirits just pass through. They come and go freely. I have been in a few situations, like in the house of friends when I travel, and they are so nice to receive me and invite me in. But I have been in some places, and of course, I spoke about and try to do something about the situation. But in some places, I remember one specifically, it was in Miami. And our friend, she would just come and go. It was a house that she would be there only for a few days for work purposes. But in the bedroom, there was like an opening on the wall, actually behind my back there when I was in bed. So the wall right here, top of the bed, was almost as if there were no wall, extra physically speaking. I'm speaking about the spiritual dimension. Of course, there is a physical wall, but this physical wall would not offer any type of resistance to the non-physical people, because the physical wall is not a stop spirits from passing through. It only stops spirits from passing through when there is some sort of energy field that is also like aligned with the wall. And it works in different ways. There are many different aspects for us to consider when we talk about this field, because it can be a field that is almost like a flip-flop door is there, but it's so easy for anyone to push a little bit and penetrate. There are situations that would be the equivalent. Of course, I'm making analogies with the physical structure, but some cases it's the equivalent of a very thin and frail, like window, and people just pass as they want. In some place, there's a window, but it's like wide open window or door, so the spirits still pass through. But in some places, it's almost like there would be nothing. It's completely open in the spiritual realm, in the astral realm. So we have to know how is the energetic structure of our house, but especially our bedroom, each of us. And in this case, what this experience evidenced is that the walls there were not yet, or not at that point, so well protected. So he not only heard spirits that were in the backyard. He saw them passing through. Those spirits were not creating any problem directly to the person here, to Rui, who reported this account. They were not, because he didn't feel attacked. He didn't feel that they were trying to connect with him in any way. He was afraid, he was scared, because that was surprising. He didn't expect to see that. Actually, someone who's just starting to know about the spirit world and start doing VELO, and then bam, here I am, really sensing the non-physical world. Yes, VELO can do that. Why? Because it is going to make our energy to be much more lucid, and it's going to bring to ourselves awareness of our own energy, awareness of the energy field around of us. If there are people around of us who are toxic, who send bad energy to us, or who influence us in some way, we will start realizing that, which is excellent, gives us a possibility of doing something about it, right? In the same way, if that environment, in this case his bedroom, is so open to the passage of non-physical people, better knowing it than not knowing, because then it's possible to do something. So I want to make absolutely clear that VELO did not create this condition, just made him conscious of it. The big question is, who were those consciousness? What is the environment, the neighborhood? Why were they so powerful, and why were they so agitated? Certainly something related with the past, which was still infiltrated in his environment. And by being infiltrated there, I mean, energetically speaking, do you understand what I mean? Like from a physical point of view, is the house. But from the spiritual point of view, what is there? And some neighborhoods, they were, with more activities, public activities, sometimes religious activities. When I was reading this account, actually, a few days ago, to a group when I was reading in Portuguese. I received this account in Portuguese and I translated it. But when I was reading it, I had such a strong feeling that that had something to do with religious people. Some of our cities, they were born with religion starting to grow, because people would travel and bring the religious ideas, or some areas were and have always been very religious. And it was my impression. I do not know why, and I may be mistaken, but when I read it, it's almost like I could sense it in a way. But of course, this is just a hypothesis of mine. The only thing that we know here for sure is what Rui is telling us. But I wanted to make this analysis with you, because that is the value that we have here. Learning to interpret our own experiences. There is some of the aspects also that he experienced here that is going to be very interesting for us to understand. So we know the consciousness passed through under the floorboard, disappear in the street gate, like the outside door facing the streets, and then he says, at first I was paralyzed with terror, but then I remember to try applying VELO. Excellent. That's it. And then he said, I felt my astral body detaching from my physical body and sitting up in bed. I could feel both my physical body, as if I were awake, and my astral body, which seemed much larger, like the body of someone twice my weight. This phenomenon has a name. This is called double perception. It's when we are projected so close to the physical body that we have a sense as if we could feel both. Actually, he was sitting up. So part of his astral body was still aligned with the physical body. And then we have the idea that I'm out, but I'm not out yet. And Sometimes we perceive both dimensions at the same time. And of course, for him, all of this was a surprise. Most probably he had already had similar experiences in the past, but let's see what we can infer from what he's telling us here. He says, sitting on the bed, I couldn't see anything. So he tried to see. So you see what is interesting here is that he was seeing these presence when he was just starting to get non-aligned. His astral body was just starting to get loose and he perceived those consciousness. And when he did VELO, he completely detached. So that condition of being paralyzed, like stuck there perceiving the non-physical dimension and being able to do nothing, was changed by VELO. And he ended up going out. So he could do something about the situation at that point. And then he says here, this detachment from the physical body and sitting up happened twice in a row within seconds. That here is another important element for us, because many times we will have disconnections in which we go out and come in, go out and come in. It's almost like a series of detaching from the body, or a series of separations from the body. But in this condition, it's almost like it's for the astral body to get lighter, less dense, and for the energy to get less dense. So you go in, so you are still kind of heavy with a lot of energy of the energy body, of your chakras, attached to your astral body. But then you go out and then you go back again. And by the way, for those of you who are watching us for the first time, VELO is a technique that we do with our own energy that has loads of different benefits. I will leave for you at the end a link to a video that explains what VELO is, if you are not familiar with the term. So what the technique is, how it's done, and everything. So I'm going to put this link for you there. But the point important here is that we learn with his experience different angles of the out-of-body experience. In some of our chats here, I have mentioned to you a few times, when you sense the disconnection, or if you sense the vibrations, the vibrational state, or if you sense any of these specific sensations that points to you that the out-of-body experience is about to happen, don't assume you are immediately flying out, because you may try and get out before your energy is loose enough. I mean, your astral body will be less attached and you can go out. Because in some instances, this happens out and in. And then sometimes our arms or our legs start flapping out and moving until we completely detach. In his case, was his torso, which is less common, but many times it happens. It was very nice that he managed to maintain his awareness, his lucidity throughout all of this time of the experience. And then he says, I couldn't see anything. It happened. This detachment from the physical body and sitting up happened twice in a row within seconds. I felt at the same time apprehension, excitement, interest, and curiosity. So you see, it's a mix. Why he felt apprehension, even some type of fear, perhaps, because he was unfamiliar with this. It was something that he could not completely interpret. But I don't see anything in his account here that should be a cause for fear. It's an absolutely natural account. And perhaps to some of you it would sound a bit like, oh, but that is strange, that produces fear. But no, nobody tried to approach him. If somebody would have, maybe it would be a bit scary, but nobody got close, nobody put any sort of bad energy on him. There was no one with any intention regarding his presence there. And why do I say all of this? Because sometimes it may happen to ourselves, even taking out of context, VELO, the energy technique, taking out of context the out-of-body experience, we may sense a presence, someone close by that makes us feel threatened, like with no power. Sometimes we feel like suffocated. Sometimes we feel like there is a pressure in our stomach, or there is someone too close, or there is a weight on us. This is super described, for example, in cases of the sleep paralysis. And why am I emphasizing this? Because this experience that he had, in spite of being a surprise to him, was not as traumatic as some of these other experiences that I am mentioning that can happen completely independent of our knowledge about astral travel. And another aspect that he mentioned here that I want to go through with you is that he says, I tried to get up outside the body, right? To get up and stand in the middle of the room. I wanted to face that thing and be able to understand what it was all about. Another sign that even though it was a bit spooky, he wanted to learn from it. So he was lucid. I remember being torn about what to do with the simultaneous perceptions of the two bodies. That's probably what held him back. I was trying to apply VELO in the physical body. And only now does that sound ridiculous to me, because I indeed didn't need it at that moment. I think he's right. He didn't need the VELO at that moment, at least not in his physical body. He could have done VELO, focused more there on the astral body, because energy sweeping our body longitudinally, like in the VELO technique, we can do it through the astral body or through the physical body. If we are here in the waking state, of course, it's through the physical body, and the astral body is aligned here inside. But when we are out, you are in a projection, you can do the VELO technique there in the projection. So it's important that we remember of this. But for him, he was conditioned. And because conditioning doing the physical body, and because he was sensing at the same time both bodies, again, because of being so close to the body, yet he only moved the energy there in the physical body. Let me amplify again here for you to read with me. And then he says, this all happened very quickly, and I cannot say precisely when I woke up, since I was lucid from the first second. So it's almost like he never slept. He never lost lucidity. So what is to wake up, right? When the stirring of the experience cooled down, I heard a sound as loud and brief, as a loud and brief electrical discharge, like you might hear before a street transformer burns out. Then came a silence that made me oscillate between relief and apprehension. Shall we discuss a bit about what this means? What is the loud sound, like a transformer being burned out? Is what we perceive sometimes when our head of the astral body, so we call it a parahead. So when our parahead starts disconnecting, either going out or coming in, sometimes we have impressions of sounds like bang, sometimes can be like an engine of an airplane, like thunder, something. The type of sound can vary a lot. And then he had that sound. And after that, re-enter his body, silent. Of course, because everything he was perceiving until that point was non-physical, the astral dimension. And then it quiet down so suddenly that he was surprised. And then what we see here is that he made some considerations about his experience, and will help us further analyze. I stood up in the physical body now, right? Pretending I wasn't shaken. Pretending to whom? I don't know. I was by myself. I went into the kitchen and tried to listen to the noises from the street, probably to check, right, if there was something in the street. I walked past my mother's room and asked her if she had heard anything. She replied she hadn't. Everything was normal. The physical world went by on quietly and undisturbed. Whenever I remember this event, my body gets goosebumps and my eyes water. It was very vivid. This seems to be a new pattern of nightmare. Look what he says here. This seems to be a new pattern of nightmares. Someone or something tried to break into the house during the night. Anyway, it's not very recurrent, and none was as real as this one. There is such an important conclusion that we can make from his comment here. He had already felt that. For him was a nightmare. So it's a new pattern of nightmare because I'm having it recurrently. But this one was so vivid, so much more vivid than the other ones, that it called his attention. So yes, there was something already disturbing him before that day. And in that day, he could see what it was. He could understand, and he wanted to know even more. He wanted to learn from the experience, but there was not enough control. And I think this is one of the beautiful aspects of the VELO technique, because VELO will make us more conscious of the energy world and the spirit world around of us without taking any of our capacity to handle the physical body. So we become more one, physical, non-physical, our energy, our chakras, all at once, but in a balanced way. It's not like someone who is like schizophrenic, sensing things at the same time. No, it's knowing, oh, the energy is here, lighter. I'm feeling that in my bedroom there is some sort of presence that alters my sleep. I cannot completely sleep calmly and deeply. So all of these are conclusions that we can make from Rui's account, but we can also understand with this how VELO works. I am going to be giving a course on how to create a force field in our bedroom to start, and then in our home and around of us, so that we are more stable, less of these interferences. Because can you imagine what a wonderful out of body experience Rui could have had if those presences were not there, if his room were not so open to all of these different spirits to enter, to go free? Would we like in our house? Now think of your physical house. What would happen if you leave the entrance door and the backyard door open and people would be allowed to pass through? Would that be okay? But they don't touch anything. They are not going to open your fridge. They are not going to do anything. They're just going to pass through. Would you accept that? Does that interfere with your house? Of course it does. Extra physically speaking, when we think of the astral dimension, the spiritual realm, it's the same. None stopped there to interact with him or interfere. But that does not mean it's okay. It's not interfering. It is interfering because every time this happens, it's someone with their own energy, their own pattern of thoughts, their own problems, their own traumas, passing through and leaving some of this energy there. So it kinds of taint the cohesion of the energy of the house. And the more we can avoid this, the better. There are some presences that are unavoidable if they are connected to us. If it's inseparable, still inseparable. If there are someone, for example, that are very close friend and come to our house and bring a certain type of spirit there, they are entering with that spirit. But having it open to the public, that is not ideal. But even when it's a presence like a spiritual company or companion that is often with us, we can start cleansing, creating more harmony in our energy field. We can start removing from our home the energy pockets with specific information that allow this consciousness to remain there or to enter or to pass through. So we need to, it's almost like rebuilding the house in the astral world. But it has to be rebuilding it in a way that it's ample because the astral world has many layers and has many different dimensions within the astral dimensions. So it has to be a house, extra physically speaking, right? That we would build with energy aligned with our own house, but that non-physical energetic house has many different layers, almost like to a huge building, like a skyscraper, but that you would have one specific information in each of those levels, because these consciousnesses, these spirits that we saw, they were super tangible, almost like you could see them with details. But sometimes we sense, but we don't see. But sensing is as important as seeing, and sometimes even more, because by sensing, we are going to be able to capture details of what that specific presence there means, what is their intention, what do they cause to ourselves, how do they affect the energy of our house. So there's loads that we can perceive when we are able to directly sense their energy. We should never run from these experiences, but try to understand, which is what Rui did. But I think it caught him out of surprise in a way. So that's it. Let me get your questions. I hope you enjoyed us reading. If you take a look before I get to your questions, let me show you this here. If you go to my website, and let me show you here, you can see the screen. If you go here and suppose that you just opened my website, nancitrivellato.com, very easy, and you go to stories. Here there are some accounts, but here at the left side, I do not know if you can see my cursor, but here you have a form for you to submit an account. And then you just go there and send me your account. That would be lovely. I say, submit your story. And here I explain how it's going to be used and blah, blah, blah. I normally have completely open, but I read it first. I'm not going to publish something that may be using improper words, or maybe something completely crazy, or maybe just saying that all of us are going to go to hell. I do not know, I'm guessing. So I have to read and organize a bit, sometimes fix punctuation so that people understand what is being said there. But please, by all means, send me your account. What I say there is, you don't need to interpret. Just tell me exactly what you experience, how, and then we can pick here and discuss. It's very nice, the opportunity to study based on accounts that you guys have. So it's, what could happen to any of us. That's it. So Juliana is helping me here. So she's separating here some of the questions, right? Tyler, give me a moment, guys. I need to find the question here on the right side. Okay. I have had experience with feeling movements and lifting during attempts for OBE, but I inhale sharply or jerk back into my body. I remember hearing about some people, don't remember, having OBEs. Are there exercises I can do? I feel I'm so close. Tyler, what I interpret from what you are telling me here is that you have some sort of conditioning that causes you to come back to your body when you are detaching. And the condition, because you say, I inhale sharply, not consciously, right? So you are there, you start feeling movements, and you sense it's getting closer, you are lifting, and then this happens because some people, and it seems could be your case, become very, very surprised when they sense they're not breathing. We don't breathe with the astral body. And when the disconnection happens slowly or sudden, slowly because our astral body starts detaching, or sudden because you are breathing and all of a sudden you don't. Some people react to that. The sensation of breathing causes them to come back. What I would say is try to prepare yourself to avoid this reaction. Otherwise, you will leave the body. And yes, you can do techniques to remember the experience, because if you didn't sense yourself detaching, because this prevents you from consciously sensing the separation, it's still okay because you can be conscious outside, but you have to be sure what you experience afterwards is an out of body experience. But you want to be conscious and to remember. So in this case, when you do some techniques, and I have a whole video here, if you guys take a look, that I give you several tips step by step. Recollection of astral projections. If you look for these words within my channel, you will find some very important tips there, because there are techniques that you can do while you are in the waking state, but there are also techniques that we would do when we are already outside the body. So you could use them during the projection so that you can remember more. But of course, for us to use a technique when we are projected, to remember, we need to recognize we are projected. So there is a series of aspects of the experience to master here. But that is not, it's not difficult. It doesn't have to take long. It also would be nice to verify if there is any sort of trauma with the breathing or disconnection from the body that would cause this. When I read, I kind of sense that there could be. Did you have out of body experience when you were young, a child, or would you feel fear of presences that you could felt in some way? Tell me if this was the case, because sometimes this creates a conditioning in ourselves. And of course, this conditioning would cause automatic reactions like this, Tyler. So another thing that you could try is using breathing techniques to leave the body. That will make you even more conscious of breathing. And yes, it makes it hard. But perhaps it brings such lucidity to you that you start being able to control the moment that you will let go of the breathing. Because the breathing techniques, and there are several techniques that use breathing as a tool to leave the body, but normally we end up detaching from the body at the moments that we are in the holding period of the breathing. So you hold. Sometimes we hold with the lungs empty, with the lungs full, depends on the technique. But when we hold, that resembles a lot the separation from the body, because we are not breathing and we are comfortable. It's very important that it has to be comfortable. So to do a breathing technique, we need to know how to do well. For those of you who did the consciousness development program, you learned few techniques with breathing. So that would be nice for you to try them and see how that would affect. Okay, Tyler, I do not know if you have ever done, and perhaps we could one day do one of these practices live, so that you all would be familiar with these aspects. When we talk about technique to leave the body, we are talking about physical relaxation to the right point. We are talking about, in a way, reducing our brain activity, so we cannot be, thinking, analyzing, because then it does not allow us to detach, but we have to be lucid. So we have to hold lucidity whilst we allow our brain to go at a slower pace. And then we need to be able to disconnect energetically. We need the energies to loosen up so that the separation is possible. And finally, we have also to control the astral body so that we manage to lift, we manage to get further from the body, because when we are too close, it's harder for us to be conscious outside the body. So you see that there is a series of things that we can do to, or that we need to do to be able to completely detach from the body. So Tyler says the answer to my questions, yes, I've had OBEs as a child. See, because you could have had something in your mind that right now is not completely conscious, but that makes you retract. Work on that and get used to the sensations of detaching. So even if you do loads of attempts, and what you told me just happened again, doesn't matter as long as your attempt goes far enough for you to experience the sensations of the disconnection. And instead of being there only, I have to leave the body, I want to leave the body. If I don't, this means I didn't succeed. No, think like this. To me, now, sensing the precursory sensations, just observing that I am about to leave the body, even though I may not leave the body. But those sensations, that preparation is what you have to get super used with. So enjoy that experience, repeat, allow the sensation to come and stay long, because this will start breaking the conditioning. Okay? Very good. Thank you, Tyler. Kimfrey, hello. Have you ever read the book Mind to Mind? No, I did not. Very shy, no. Um, and can we use the out-of-body experience to heal people? Yes, we can. And actually, is one of the things that some projectors who are more experienced, they end up doing. Because when we are outside the body, our balance, our lucidity, our capacity to be healthy enough, balanced enough out there is a tool so important that we can borrow or we can give some to other people that we see, especially people who are in between lives. And when I say give, it's we don't lose anything, we just gain more and more and more, right? It's a give that only helps us to be even more lucid and understand even more. But yes, it is possible. It's possible also to heal people who are physical people, but there are other challenges, because we may want to give energy or approach someone who is a physical person we know, but sometimes the problem there is not necessarily the physical body. It may be a problem that is in the astral body. So we need to have the other person lucid outside the body for us to be able to work normally. Otherwise, it tends not to work so well. There are some stories that I do not know if you have any in your family, but I've heard from students many times stories that it's like one aunt had once a very, very vivid dream that, and this is one that I am remembering here, that a doctor would pass by, go in the house with a little bag, not a bag, a suitcase for the equipment, and then would enter and heal a person with a physical problem. And the following day, the person didn't have any more the situation. Of course, this is rare, but this is possible. Can we do this being projected? Yes. Is it easy? It's super difficult. Super difficult, because then we have to master many different energies, and the person who is receiving that treatment, that energy, has also to be open to that. It's not I want, I don't want. It's more than this, because we can say I want, but inside not really be open. So there are a number of variables. Otherwise, it would be much easier to help people. But on the other hand, it would also be easy to harm people, because the knife that is used to heal, to do a surgery, or the scalpel can also be used to harm someone. Same here with energy. But this is life. This is life. There's no way to escape from it. The more information we have, the more we understand what's going on, the stronger and safer we are. You guys know my approach. That is, what is a fact, period. We do not need to make it worse or dangerous or tell stories that people want to hear, the stories about what's spooky, but we do not need also to tell this experience in a way that's only rosy colors around and all divine and perfect. No, it's reality. We have all different range of situations. And what is important is that we understand. As much as here in a physical life, if we understand the rules of how things operate, we can manage, right? So same thing in the out-of-body experience. Yes, please, Juliana, give us another one. Hi, Jermaine. Have you ever, no, let me find it here. Have you ever, or is it possible during out-of-body? Sorry, the punctuation is strange, so I was not understanding. During out-of-body experience, to encounter a consciousness that is not from our world, yes, it is possible. Of course, it's possible to encounter consciousness who have been for a long time not born here, and therefore they may have different characteristics. It's possible to encounter consciousness that they are not from this planet. However, having said that, I must say that there's a lot of exaggerations. Nowadays, talking about extraterrestrial is in fashion, and people who talk about that, they boom, they grow with their audience, and I feel some use that. So yes, it's possible. It happens. As much as it's possible for you or for me, it depends on our capacity to do it, to visit another planet when we are projected outside the body. So yes, we can meet someone from another planet. However, how much of what we experience is real, is a fact, is not our brain transforming the experience and creating something that is a little bit too elaborated. But yes, it's possible. It's possible. I think what's most important in a case like this is to be able to evaluate what is the quality of the lucidity and ethics, cosmoethics, of the being I am meeting. I am here with in this out of body experience. So this is the question that all of us should ask ourselves during an experience in which we see someone. It doesn't matter the appearance, because some spirits, they are conscious enough to be able to change their appearance. They may appear to you as a friend or as a family member, and that's not the real appearance. Again, it's not easy for them to do this outside the body. But yes, it can be done. And if we are naive, then we just look the appearance and we assume what we are seeing is a fact. No, what are we going to do? We are going to put our energy antennas, right? And observe or even expand our energy. Gently emit energy to probe what's there. It's probing, really. Because with our energies, we touch, we sense. So I see someone here that's not from this world. Is it a good one or a bad one? Is it real? Is this the right image? Because if we look at human race and we see the variety of appearances that we have some Maasai that is super tall and thin and very dark skin, and we have other people who are short, super white, too much even like me, that we see the veins inside the face. So imagine when we talk about people who are in between lives, what sort of appearance we can expect. Any. It doesn't matter the appearance. What matters is what we sense in the energy. But yes, answer to your question. Yes, it's possible. I think that's what you were asking, right, German? I complimented because I thought was important. And then I have Luke. Let me find it here at my left side. Sorry, guys. Otherwise, I don't read because it's so small font here. And look, hello. I got scared many times when I was strongly relaxed, and suddenly I got completely immersed into colors, which I felt like other realm. Yeah. How to overcome fear of losing touch with reality. What I suggested to, I do not remember anymore, Tyler, that mentioned about the breathing is what you are going to use here. You have to desensitize yourself. Now, seeing colors, like all of a sudden you are immersed. It's not that you are seeing, right? You feel the environment became colorful and you are immersed into that. I understand what you mean. And sometimes it can also be like you are there relaxed with your eyes closed, and all of a sudden it's like somebody turned on the light. You get super bright. Or the opposite. You are there relaxed in your body, your eyelids are closed, but you have the perception of some illumination in the room, or it's even dark, but all of a sudden it gets darker. So what is this? It's our interpretation of the, how would I say, translocation, moving from one dimension to another. So we are here inside the physical body. We are in the physical dimension pretty much. All of a sudden we detach. Doesn't mean we went far away, but the connections, they change. And all of a sudden we start perceiving more the astral, non-physical dimension than the physical one, where is the furniture, the bed, our body. And in that moment, we react as if we are just diving into a completely different reality. That's why we have these impressions. But of course, the visual impression of colors is one of them. Sometimes it's almost like people feel it's silent here. All of a sudden, it's even more silent. So, but in a jump, it's not more silent. It's the same. You are in your room, and the street is the same environment. So you would be with this exposed under the same level of noise of the room, but it seems like got completely silent. This may be an interpretation of our brain of when we disconnect with the physical. Doesn't mean going out, disconnect in terms of our focus, of our lucidity. We are less lucid of the physical body and physical dimension, and then we got our reference from out there, and then it changed completely. And sometimes, as we read in the account that was in the beginning of this talk, if you are arriving now, I suggest you hear from the beginning afterwards, because there was a very interesting account that we examined. But as we see in Rui's account, what happened is that he would all of a sudden start having this perception of two bodies. So he would perceive both, which means awareness, focus of the mind to switch between the physical body and the non-physical, astral body, physical, non-physical. And this is one of the difficulties we have to leave the body. We are sensing the physical body, and it's hard for us to switch and connect only with the non-physical dimension. In the same way, when we are doing VELO or any other energy technique, but especially VELO, because VELO is only us with our own energy, and that's it. But when we are doing VELO, sometimes it's hard because we are sensing more the physical body than the energy body. So when we are moving the energy that is in the energy body, so how can we know what we are doing and what's going on if the sensation of the physical body is so much higher? Our awareness of the physical body is much higher than our awareness of our energy body. And we need to keep changing this little by little through experiences, practices, and there are techniques that we can employ. But basically, experiencing, observing. Okay? Thank you, Luke. Patricia, let me find here. Hi, Patricia. I've experienced spinning out of body And as this happened, I heard bubbling like being immersed in water and felt a sharp pain in the right ear. Why pain when leaving the body? I believe you really experienced detaching. I believe this, I interpret in this way that this sensation of the bubbling is because the energies were moving so much that we feel like that. Sometimes energy feels like, you know, like the bubbles of a frizzy drink, for example. It's very strange. But what happens here is that there is one sensation that we call a sign, a parapsychic sign, which is when something changes in our energy, we would have a noise in the ear. You are describing it as pain, right? But was it painful or was just like ping? Because some impressions that we have are very sharp, very vivid, all of a sudden, and the closest thing we have to describe that is pain. But not necessarily it was pain as we would describe in the physical body. And that could be an energy sign, meaning, was there somebody close to you? Was it produced only by the separation? It could also be because there is something that is the intracranial sounds, sounds that we hear when we are detaching or returning. Could be the sound for you? Yes, but somehow in the way you describe it here, when I read in the sequence that you experience, I feel this more like an energy sign that someone, something was present in your field than something related with the disconnection per se. The other sense, yes, the disconnection per se, but here this specifically, I don't, I don't, my hypothesis is that this is some sort of presence that you perceived in that way. This makes me ask, did you sense anything? Your experience developed further? Did you manage to see something or leave the body? Or how were you when you woke up after this experience? So that we start being able to analyze if there can be any sort of presence that would generate this sensation. So Patricia is saying it felt like real physical pain. I had a scary experience after disconnecting. Yes. So felt like physical pain and scary is because it was a presence. Not because of the pain. No. Because sometimes you feel things that they seem like pain and it's not necessarily bad. But because of the type of pain. And there is someone close by, someone spirit, right? That is producing a connection with you, and then you end up having not so nice experience. So now you know, that acute sound in my ear that can get to the point of being painful, it's telling me something. So whenever it happens, do your VELO, cleanse your energy, or try to observe what's going on, which moment is that. Because when it becomes a sign, it can happen in different situations. Huh? Legal. Angela VR. Let me find Angela here so I read better. Since doing VELO, a few times during meditation, when beginning to lose lucidity, I jerked awake because a part of my body felt like it slammed or fell back into my body. Are these failed OBEs because a part of my astral body is still stuck to the physical body? Yes, but I wouldn't say failed OBEs because not necessarily you would complete the out of body experience at the moment. What happens is that when we are super relaxed, and this many times happens when we are just resting in bed and we are still not completely asleep, but we start to feel we are disconnecting. One part of the body sometimes disconnect all of a sudden, and then it comes back because it creates a repercussion because it's sudden, it's just one part, and then we kick. Sometimes our brain afterwards creates an image Like we say, oh, I thought something was falling on me, so I try to do this. No, the image of something falling on you came right after the sensation, but it's so immediate, the interpretation of the brain, because it's the brain trying to interpret what's going on. And what's going on when you feel falling, when you feel your hand is falling, but your hand were already on the bed. So this is a partial out-of-body experience, not a full one. But of course, the idea would be that you could put yourself relaxed and dedicate one session only to leave the body. Because if you are doing meditation and you begin to lose lucidity, it's a little bit contrary to the meditation. I do not know what type of meditation you do, but in the meditation, you want to meditate. If you lose lucidity, then you are not controlling your mind. So in this case, better say, I'm going to do some specific technique to leave the body. Now, why this start happening after VELO, after you start VELO? Because VELO will loosen up your chakras, reduce energy blocks, will make it more flexible. The energy will flow better inside of you. And we are talking about the energy that forms the energetic interface, the silver cord in a way, the connection between the two bodies. So the looser it is, the easier to detach from the body. And the easier it is to be lucid. So maybe this process would already happen before, but you were so unconscious that you would go out, go in, and you don't notice. But now you notice. And then we start having these reactions. Very nice, very nice. What is important here, Angela, is that you observe you are in a good state of mind afterwards. Not because of VELO, but because when we start losing lucidity, when we are doing any exercise, that moment of losing lucidity is just because our brain starts falling asleep, or because some sort of energy came and we connected with that, and that energy causes us to reduce our lucidity. So this is what we do not want. We want to remain lucid, in control, and you decide, I'm not going to leave the body. Yes, I will. Oh, now my arm, my right arm just jerked. Oh, I could feel it going out and coming back and jerking. We want to know what's going on. And then we allow what we decide is good for us. Does it make sense? But VELO will empower you to do that. The more you do, the easier things become, the more you observe what's going on, what is around, and the more you will know what to do. Okay? It was a failed meditation because I was falling asleep. Yes. And sometimes, Angela, this becomes a habit. And some energy, spiritual presence, energy pockets, like energy fields around of us, learn how to connect with us in this moment. Why? Because we are open, vulnerable. We kind of open ourselves for that meditation, but we are not completely lucid, so we get a little bit vulnerable. So it's good that you have the jerk, you come back, and you start observing what is going on. The more you do VELO, the more stable the energy field will be around you, the more you'll be able to observe what's in there. But you have to have the decision, right? Yes, I want to see what's going on. Very nice. Thank you, Angela. Very nice. And then Janek, I want to do the VELO 101 training. When searching on the Academy website, I found the Energo Fitness training. What is the difference and best to start with? They are absolutely completely different. What I have in the VELO 101 training is what I teach in my book. My book is technical. I go into details and I explain whys and I explain about research, mine and others, and I give references. So when you read my book, you have to, from all of that information, start saying, oh, this is how VELO is done. Oh, this is what I do and I feel, but you have to read a lot to get the whole of idea. What I did in the VELO 101 was, if I had to explain to somebody in simpler language with examples, only the key points someone needs to know to go, I do this first and I do this next, and then I do this, I would explain this way. So that's what I did in the VELO 101. It's almost like a manual for VELO that I explain the steps and I do some exercises there. Now, the Energo Fitness is only practice. So an instructor will be with you live, discussing different types of techniques, VELO included. We focus on a specific goal. When we do that specific session, there are sessions with different goals. So today I mentioned about cleansing your room, your bedroom, your house. So there are some sessions for these, there are sessions for VELO. You learn a lot, but then it's more focused on the practice. You get some tips, and it's like 1 hour and a half, 2 hours of exercises, and you comment your results and the instructor will give you feedback. It's very nice because the exercises are conducted live. So it's never the same, different instructors. And even if it's myself, when I conduct an exercise, the purpose is the same, but the sequence, the pace, everything is different. It's for that moment. So it's nice, but it's more practice, less explanation. So they are different, I'd say. If you had to start, if you are interested in doing VELO, I'd start with the VELO 101, because then you will know how to do it well. And of course, when you do an Energo Fitness session, you will be able to follow even better. You'll be able to clarify even deeper, different challenges or different sensations. But if you want an overall of energetic experience, more hands-on, then it would be the Energo Fitness. If you are not familiar with the consciousness development program, that is how would I say, the broadest, the most complete program. Regarding out-of-body experience, I do not know any program that would be more complete than that, because it explains details in a pace that makes sense. We learn things in the right sequence. We learn energetic self-defense. We learn to control energy first, and then we learn how to project, and then we learn what to do outside body, and we learn whys. And I always emphasize, someone who understands what is involved in energy work, spiritual world, out-of-body experience must be able to explain why, or must be able to acknowledge there is not enough research and cases for us to know why this happens, but this happened. So the consciousness development program, there's a lot of basis, and I love it because it kind of connects everything. What is the connection of our past lives with our capacity to work with energies, with our sensations, with feelings we have, with perhaps spirits that get close by, with the type of out-of-body experience we have, what is our role, our mission or purpose in this life, and how does this connect with it all. So it's very broad in connecting dots. So they are completely different. And actually that is a tiny fragment of the information. But anyway, since you mentioned you went to the IAC website, so I wanted to explain the differences. Very good. Thank you. And then I have here exploration. Yes, let's explore outside the body, right? Hello from France. Very nice to have you here. I never succeed to make an out-of-body experience. I've made a VELO this afternoon, and my mind become to lose equilibrium in a moment. Equilibrium imbalance, like physical balance. Is it a sign of OBE or that you were about to leave the body? But I can't go out the skull. So you keep feeling only inside of your head? Any advice to succeed for the mind to go out of this box that is my head? Yes, I think I understand now what you're saying. So you do VELO, you start feeling disconnected. And then you start feeling almost as if dizzy. That's how I interpret. You are separating little by little, but you may be too analytical. To leave the body, we have to let go a little bit. And if we are always like, now I'm going to go out. Yes, I'm feeling this. I did VELO, and I did that much. I did not sense the energy going through my chest. Why would that be? But now, yes, now I'm leaving the body. Should I produce a vibrational state? It's just examples. But when we have that mental posture, it keeps our brain at a level of activity. So think of the brain as if you had part of your body that would be tense. So if your brain is there thinking beta waves, it's hard for you to go into the specific alpha, delta, and even gamma waves that would be present when you are leaving the body or when you are out of the body. Out of the body, old, I mean, like from some decades ago, research point out that it's easier to leave the body when we are in delta waves. Can we be in delta waves and still conscious? That is a challenge. It's possible, but you need to practice this. So what I would suggest to you, try to practice to recognize the moment that you start falling asleep. Because when we start falling asleep, we lose a little bit of control of our brain, our mind in a way. Is that right? So you are in bed, you are conscious, and then all of a sudden, poof, you fall asleep. But recognize us thinking different and our thoughts getting slower, and then some oniric image that means dream-like image start appearing, and then you feel this balance and you feel your body start disappearing, meaning you don't sense the body anymore, but you are still there. Try to practice falling asleep is lower, so you sense each of these phases. This is going to help you to learn to reduce the brain activity whilst your body is relaxed and you remain lucid. And sometimes what you are describing will continue happening because it happens to all of us. It happens to me sometimes. You see, you feel you are about to, but you don't manage to leave the body. Don't tell me. That is annoying, and that is the challenge that any real conscious projector experience once in a while. So it's a matter of percentage of success. But here you need to get used to the sensation of letting go of your brain activity. So it's almost as if you are thinking differently, but you are aware that you are in bed, you are aware that you just practiced energy, you observe what's going on in an energetic, non-physical level, and you go with it. So you feel sometimes that you fell asleep for 20 seconds, 30 seconds, and came back. So that threshold, practice staying there for longer. This will make big difference because I think that's what you are needing here. And make sure that when you talk about you got loose, like losing your balance, so you are losing your balance, like in the physical body, or you feel as if you were oscillating. If you are doing VELO in the waking state, you should always concentrate on just moving the energy inside your body. Don't allow separations or you start losing your balance, like you are oscillating. No, it's me here inside the body doing VELO. But once you finish, all of that is okay. You feel the energy flowing, like creating waves. And it's very nice. It's like we are calmly, like in an ocean, waves and rocking, swinging. But that is then the beginning of the out-of-body experience. But during VELO, it should be only the flow of the energy inside your body. Could I clarify that? If not, you please let us know there. Do I have one more question here? Yes, so Frank. And this will be my last one, I guess, right? If that is okay with you guys. Frank telling us, doing VELO, I started hearing a metallic sound as if I were inside a can. Also the sound of a drop of water falling into a tin sink. Was I listening to the astral world? It could be, but I don't think so. The way I interpret this is more like you perceiving intracranial sounds. Let me ask you something, Frank, and you answer here for me so I can be more precise. Was this something that took long, so you heard it for some period of time, or it came cling, bling, bling, and that was it? Tell me there, because it depends on how it was. My answer will be different. Because if it is something that happened only once and was sharp, but went away quickly, it could be the intracranial sound. You loosen, your astral body loosen inside the physical body. So you are there aligned, but not completely connected a long time. So you were there aligned, not completely connected. So there could be an intracranial sound. But in the way you are describing here, it could be that you were perceiving something in the astral world, because the intracranial sound is not long. It is some seconds. It may happen for some seconds and then it stops for whatever, 5 minutes, and then comes a few seconds. It's not continuous. If it was continuous, it could be. But there is a third hypothesis here that I would like you to consider, and you will know how to interpret your own experience. That is, sometimes when we start disconnecting, we are still inside, but just started expanding beyond the borders of our physical body. We may have what's called a hyperacuity. So our senses, they become super acute. And in this case, we may hear the noise of a little cog moving inside of an engine we have at home. You may hear the sound of your computer on there in the room side that you never heard before. It's not something that you normally pick. We may even, for example, it's not the case here because was hearing what you experienced, but some people will smell like the perfume that is in their bed sheets that was there for all of those days, but in that moment it becomes super sharp. This type of hyperacute sense happens a lot when we are about to leave the body. That's why when we prepare our room, we always try to adjust these things. Preparing in a way that we do not want to have any perfume close to us. We do not want any heavy clothes or clothes that are tight because we may start sensing them. And we will try to have as little sharp noises as possible. So 3 hypotheses here for you to consider: intracranial sound, hyperacuity, or a sound from the astral world. I was quite in the body, listening to the physical world as well. I think that's exactly what you are saying. Yes, it is the most possible, most probable here, I think, the hyperacuity. Now you have to learn with this, Frank, because if one of your signs that you are disconnecting is hyperacuity, you have to know that and be prepared. Otherwise, a sound like this may end up holding you inside your body because you keep hearing. It is then bringing some stimulus to your body, and that will hold you and make it harder for you to detach consciously. So, number 1, you see if there's anything that you can fix. In this case, there's this noise, you don't even know where it comes from. But it can be this, like sometimes there's a drop from the fridge there, and then you hear that. This is an amazing experience. Sometimes we hear something that it's like 3-4 houses away. And so you check that. So prepare to reduce as much as possible and prepare yourself psychologically. I'm not going to focus on anything that is taking me out of my concentration on having a reference in the astral world. What is having a reference? It's like your mind focusing on the reality that is out there instead of focusing on the reality that is here in the physical dimension. So it's almost as if, because when we are here, right, our mind is here, our mental body, and then we are conscious from this point of view. But imagine if you could try to simulate. It's just a simulation, it's an effort. You are still here, but you simulate as if you are out there. You want to pick what's out there. So you keep pushing your lucidity, yourself, to view the world from a different point of view, which is just a wish, it's just a focus while you are inside. But that increases your chances of going out. When we are sensing the physical body or we have noises around, it's harder to do this. But you have to find a way to, bypass that. Does it make sense? Yes. Um, I think, yes. Kim Free. It's really great to be able to ask these kind of questions and get answers from someone so knowledgeable. Thank you, Kim Free. It's such a pleasure for me to share because these experiences are precious, right? Hi, Germaine. Thank you. I'm glad this was helpful, guys. And I will keep reading experiences for us to learn with the experience of others. It's nice to have the illustration, right? I will keep doing it. It was very nice having you here as well. Next Saturday, I will be with you and I will tell you about how the energy of places can be felt and can create these energy pockets that affect us. And I'm going to use an account to do that, which is one account of mine of when I visited Wilhelm's, my tongue now, Reich, Wilhelm Reich. I do not know how you pronounce in English, but that is, I think it's this, the German researcher who lived in the United States for some time of his life and studied about energy and orgone and how energy could heal others. I visited his house. It's a museum. His house is a museum, but I traveled like 8 hours by car to get there, but it was worth every moment. So I want to tell you some of the things that I sensed there so that it serves as an example to you so you can analyze your own experiences. So that will be for next week. I hope you can join me. Thank you so much for being here. Please have wonderful out-of-body experience. Thank you, Tyler, for being here with us. We have such a nice community, and it's so important that we are aligned. Thank you very much. I will keep in touch and bringing news to you here, okay? Goodbye, guys. Have a nice week. Bye, Exploration. Nice to have you here. Merci. Bye-bye. Ciao, guys. Thank you very much.